Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Riley McManus. It's the end of an era. Britain and the world is mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth II. The announcement came from Buckingham Palace this afternoon. Queen Elizabeth was 96 years old and the longest-serving British monarch. She spent 70 years on the throne, which now goes to her son, King Charles III. Here's Paul Workman with a look back at Queen Elizabeth's life and legacy.
In a long life marked by milestones, the Queen's 90th birthday was perhaps the most significant. A moment of splendor and deep affection, shared with her husband Philip, with the nation she had ruled from the age of 25, and with a joke about getting old.
How I will feel if people are still singing Happy Birthday in December remains to be seen.
In an ever-changing world, it seemed there was always one constant, and her name was Elizabeth.
My lords and members of the House of Commons.
Christened Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, a princess destined to be queen by a royal twist of fate. With the abdication of Edward VIII in 1936, Elizabeth's father, the Duke of York, took up the crown, and the world began to notice his 11-year-old daughter, suddenly heir to the throne. She was famously pictured during the Blitz, driving an ambulance, the royal family doing its wartime duty. By then, she was already in love with a Greek prince she met as a teenager. 50 years later, she said they were still in love.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years.
Their first son, Charles, was still a toddler when life for the Windsors changed forever. With the death of her father, England and the Commonwealth had a new young monarch. She got to know Canada as Canadians got to know her. One of her last tributes, sending best wishes for the country's 150th birthday.
I have watched Canada develop into a remarkable nation. You have earned a reputation as a welcoming, respectful and compassionate country.
Life for the Queen wasn't always pomp and ceremony. She faced her own horrible times. 1992, the year Prince Charles and Diana separated, to be followed by much worse. A terrible car accident in Paris. The Princess of Wales mourned in an outpouring of grief and shock. The Queen steadfast. In spite of rumors, she and her daughter-in-law never got along. The monarchy endured, and the next 2 decades brought new honors and triumphs. A golden jubilee, followed by a diamond jubilee, and the moment when she became the oldest sitting monarch in British history.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception.
There to witness the marriage of her grandson William to Kate Middleton, a future king, as she was once a future queen.
There you are.
Driven into lockdown by the COVID pandemic, like much of the world, yet finding new high-tech ways to carry out her royal duties. Suffering through Prince Harry's traumatic and acrimonious break from the royal family, forcing him to choose between duty and his new life in America. And saying goodbye to her beloved Philip after more than 7 decades of marriage. Partners in life, partners in service to the British Crown. And it was alone that she celebrated her Platinum Jubilee, an achievement counted in years and the boundless affection of the British people. Refusing to give in to issues of health and aging, appearing on the balcony of Buckingham Palace 3 times. A life of duty and show accepted as both a privilege and a burden.
I
declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
A promise made and a promise kept to the end of her reign, Elizabeth II, Queen. Paul Workman, CTV News, London.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau issued a public address this afternoon. Here's what he had to say about the passing of Queen Elizabeth II.
It is with the deepest of sorrow that we learn today of the passing of Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. She was our Queen for almost half of Canada's existence, and she had an obvious, deep, and abiding love and affection for Canadians. She served us all with strength and wisdom for 70 years as we grew into the diverse, optimistic, responsible, ambitious, and extraordinary country we are today. As her 12th Canadian Prime Minister, I'm having trouble believing that my last sit-down with her was my last. I will so miss those chats. She was thoughtful, wise, curious, helpful, funny, and so much more. In a complicated world, her steady grace and resolve brought comfort and strength to us all. Canada is in mourning. She was one of my favorite people in the world, and I will miss her so.
Here in Ontario, Premier Doug Ford also delivered a statement today regarding the Queen's passing.
While I express my sincere condolences to the King Charles III, I also congratulate His Majesty on his ascension to the throne of the United Kingdom and to wish him great success in continuing his mother's legacy. On behalf of all Ontarians, I'm sending our thoughts and prayers to the entire royal family, the people of the United Kingdom, and Her Majesty's many admirers all over the world. Long live the King.
People here in Thunder Bay are also mourning the death of Queen Elizabeth, and there are some local residents who witnessed the Queen and Prince Philip during one of the royal visits here by the couple. The first visit to the Lakehead was in October of 1951, 2 years before Elizabeth officially took over the British throne. 8 years later, the Queen and the Duke were back in Port Arthur and Fort William, arriving aboard the royal yacht Britannia. CKPR news cameras followed them around the two cities. Their final visit was to the amalgamated city of Thunder Bay in July of 1973. We spoke to some local residents this afternoon for their reaction to the sad news coming from Buckingham Palace.
I was very sad. She was an icon, and she was so majestic, and you know, it's a very, very sad time in history for us losing her.
That it was a moment in time that I'll probably never forget. Feels like a pretty big moment for the Commonwealth, really.
Well, not surprised, but feeling rather sad about it anyway. Yeah.
And yourself?
Yeah, I feel sad about it too. She's been there for so long, and I think she's had a pretty tough life, and yeah, I quite respected her.
Yeah.
The administrator of the Thunder Bay Police Board has released a comprehensive report detailing the infighting within the board and police leadership over the past 4 years. Malcolm Mercer says his appointment should not be seen as a solution to the problems, and he believes a small part-time police board with limited support staff will not accomplish what is needed in Thunder Bay. Jonathan Wilson reports.
In his 28-page report to the Ontario Civilian Police Commission, Malcolm Mercer provides an in-depth look into all the infighting within the police force and the board since 2020. He says much of it began when then-Chief Sylvie Hoth changed the process for promotions in 2019. That led to Sergeant Michael Domini being promoted, while Detective Jason Ryback was not. Mercer says the police board chair at that time, Georgianne Morso, then met with the police union about the situation and brokered a promotional grievance memorandum of understanding, allegedly on her own. That set off what Mercer calls an unfortunate series of disputes, allegations of leaked information, an internal investigation of Morso, human rights complaints against the service and board, and earlier this year, the suspensions of Deputy Chief Ryan Hughes and Chief Hoth. There was also the resignation of 3 police board members after Mercer was appointed in April. Mercer says his role is not the solution, and he intends to do what's best to position a new board for success. But he says simply appointing new board members and a new chief will not be sufficient, as he feels a small board of part-time members is not equipped to do all that is asked of it. And without greater changes, he feels there is the very real prospect of yet another failure to advance crucial goals for the Thunder Bay Police Service. Neither Mercer nor the OCPC were available for interviews on the report. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
The James Whalen tug was raised from the Cam River today, just over 4 months since a spring storm caused the historic vessel to sink. It took all day to get the tugboat up and out of the river, with curious onlookers waiting patiently to see the boat sit above the waterline once again. LH North General Contractors led the complex effort, aided by the crews of the barge Coastal Titan and Thunder Bay Tug Services. There were setbacks throughout the day, but the crews continued undaunted. Corey Halverson, the manager of Parks and Open Spaces, says it's a relief to see the tug upright once more.
Yeah, I think it was a very custom situation where the positioning of the boat and the weight of the boat and the options for connecting to it were all very unique. But the contractor was obviously prepared for more than one type of solution. So yeah, when there's a little bit of a setback this morning with the first approach at this, but then they quickly pivoted to what they're doing right now.
Water is now being pumped from the tug before it can be moved to its new temporary home at Patterson Dock near the swing bridge. A damage assessment will also be conducted. More information is expected in the coming days. Thunder Bay fire crews were busy early this morning after a pair of fires broke out on the city's south side, leading to significant damages. Firefighters responded to a laneway on Syndicate Avenue North around 3 o'clock this morning, where they found a garage fully engulfed in flames. 2 pumpers brought the fire under control with 2 attack lines, but the building was totally destroyed. And there was also light damage to a nearby house. There's no word yet on a potential cause. Soon after that, fire crews were called to put out a basement fire on Limbrick Avenue. A multi-million-dollar project was announced at Magnus Theatre today that will take the only professional theatre in Northwestern Ontario to the next level. Mitchell Ringos was down at the presentation and brings us the details for this exciting project.
The last time Magnus Theatre has seen a significant change to infrastructure was around 2001. But now another major upgrade is in the works, which was presented today, showcasing the $6.2 million addition that would look to modernize Magnus by expanding the production shop, renovating the lounge, additional building improvements, and the biggest addition of a 125-seat studio theater, which Board of Directors President Warren Mauk says will add tremendous value to the theater.
Having a second studio theater is going to, first of all, increase revenue at Magnus, but also create the opportunity for additional rentals and capacity for the community. So I'm quite excited about it, and I know that it's going to increase our patronage here significantly.
Magnus Artistic Director Tom Curry says this is an idea that has been in the works for a long time, but now that this plan has finally been put in motion, Curry says it will give Magnus endless opportunities.
The idea that we have a multi-performance space facility in Thunder Bay is going to be amazing. So we could be having a concert outside at Magnus in the Park. We could be having a small, intimate alternative theater production happening in the studio theater, and we can have a main stage play happening on the main stage at Magnus Theater.
And this new addition would be a gateway to revitalize the waterfront entertainment district as the city continues to upgrade the area. Thunder Bay CEDC Tourism Manager Paul Pepe says this is an amazing investment for Thunder Bay.
This is so critical to, keeping visitors here longer, attracting new visitors, and giving some, giving people something extra to do. And a lot of the folks that come down to see a Magnus play also spend time, dining down in the waterfront. They have a drink afterwards. They explore the area more, and that has an amplified economic impact on the community.
Now, once completed, the new studio would be directly behind me in this open field and be the same height as this lighter portion of the building and wrap around to the edge of the outdoor stage. Now, for times of completion, 99% of the drawings are expected in late fall of 2022. And as for the project as a whole, that is expected to be done sometime in late 2023. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
Marina Park was filled with music and hope last night during the 9th annual Rocking Recovery event. The concert is aimed at ending the stigma around addiction recovery and providing support for those in active recovery. Jess Clement has the story.
Hundreds came out to this year's Rock and Recovery event to celebrate those walking the path of overcoming their addictions. The event had a number of musical acts as well as locals telling their own stories of recovery. Along with live entertainment, there were various informational booths around the area, with recovery allies promoting local helping resources. Cynthia Olson, drug strategy lead with the city, says the event started out 11 years ago as a project to address stigma related to various forms of recovery in the community. And after speaking to individuals willing to share their stories and holding smaller events, it grew from there.
We started to talk about, how could we do this on a bigger scale? And that was how it morphed into Recovery Day. And then we actually learned that there's a national movement. And we were one of a growing number of cities across Canada that were getting involved in recovery action in their communities in the month of September. So then we've just been doing Rock and Recovery since then.
The event is also meant to be a beacon of hope for those who are seeking help. Kayla Marshallock says she was a month clean when she went to her first Rock and Recovery concert, and adds that events like these are really helpful to those on the road to recovery.
It opened up my eyes to how many people are in recovery and how many people have found a way out, and just all the organizations and resources there are that I never knew about. It was so nice to see everyone coming together, spreading hope and showing support. That's so important. So these events that go on, I think, are life-saving.
And Marshallock has some advice for those who are looking to make changes in their lives.
And what I learned quickly was that if you want the help, you gotta work for it. There are a lot of agencies out there and resources, but there's also lots of barriers that I ran into. So I had to put in that work. I had to keep making phone calls, asking for help, and it was uncomfortable being vulnerable, saying, hey, I'm an addict and I want help. That was hard to do, but I was welcomed with open arms, and people are happy to help if you want it.
For more information, residents can visit the drug strategy page on the city's website. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Significant historical, architectural, and cultural sites around the Thunder Bay area will open their doors to the public this Saturday for the popular Doors Open event. Participants will have the chance to explore the city's rich cultural heritage through both architecture and landscapes. At a news conference today to promote the event, organizers say the focus is on exploring the community's roots in agriculture. The 16 sites available for visitors to explore for free. Some of the sites are Fort William Historical Park, the Thunder Bay Museum, and the Chippewa Park Pavilion. Doors will be open from 10 in the morning until 4 p.m. The Heritage Advisory Committee is also offering 3 digital sites for those who are more comfortable with a virtual experience. Event coordinator Lori Abthrop says it's a great opportunity for participants to get out and visit places in the community they wouldn't typically get to explore.
It's a great chance to kind of open those doors and go in. And the instance for this year, when we explore our roots in agriculture, we can learn about the cultural landscapes that are in the city and out into the farming community as well.
Well, I'm really hoping that people have a sense of heritage and some preservation, obviously. These buildings, they should be protected and cherished and for future generations.
Printed event guides are available at City Hall, the City Archives Building, and the Thunder Bay Tourist Pagoda. More information can also be found on the Doors Open Ontario website under the Thunder Bay tab.